Hey guys, and welcome back to the Rise Up series. So this is week number 3, and today we're going to be talking about mental mastery, essentially all things mindset. So strategies for female mental focus and clarity, and some common things that come up around mindset when it comes to making progress with your goals. Because I honestly think this is literally one of the biggest things that makes or breaks progress towards a goal is your mindset and your frame of mind towards it. So I thought I would just cover some kind of key things that I think are super important to think about and maybe consider if you're working towards a specific goal. So remember, if you haven't checked out week 1 and week 2, make sure you go and check it out. There's a link below which will direct you basically to the guide download, and you can go and head over and you can download the guide that accompanies this video as well, and you can basically follow it through. This video just goes into a bit more detail as well as the guide covering all of this. So go and check that out, go and download it if you haven't. If you are watching this, make sure you go and check the guide out, because the guide covers everything in a lot of detail as well, and it means that you can kind of work through it at your own pace. So go and download it. Okay, so let's get going. Like I said, one of the key things determining your results is going to be your mindset. This is honestly so important. So what we're going to cover today is how to navigate family and friends when you're working towards a goal, mindset in specific phases, for example, fat loss phase or a building phase, and how to consistently show up, how to push through the hard days, because I feel like that's something that comes up a lot is, okay, I'm really struggling today, can't really be bothered, like the mindset towards that. Going to basically help you build a strong mindset to stay focused, working towards your goals. So let's get going. If the first thing I want to talk through basically is about setbacks. So understanding that like setbacks do happen, and I think often when you start out towards a goal or on a specific journey, you think in your head everything's going to run really smoothly and you're going to wake up every day and you're going to feel so motivated. But unfortunately, it's very rarely the case, and setbacks do happen, and it's just like learning how to deal with them and persevere, because at the end of the day, everyone experiences setbacks, everyone experiences hard days, although it might not look like it from the outside. And it's about, you know, no matter what happens, like just keep showing up, because even if you have a day and you think this is literally, it could have not got any worse, if you continue to just show up and move forward, you know, it's okay, you will make the progress that you want, and that is the biggest thing that I think is the most important. So, understanding that things don't go always to plan, and that's okay. Knowing that if you are working towards a goal, it is going to be hard and you're not always going to feel like doing it. You know, sometimes you just have to really push yourself. If you're having a day and it feels hard, sometimes you just have to push yourself and get on with it. No one's journey is perfect, and it doesn't need to be perfect. The most important thing is that you continue to show up, and looking at a growth versus a fixed mindset, rather than viewing things as a failure or like, oh, that's that then. Just use it as a chance to learn and use it as a chance to move forward. I think when you're working towards a goal, it's really easy to get into like a glass half empty mindset, and you always look at the negatives. And I just honestly think like if you really want something, you'll find a way and you'll find the time to get it done. A lot of the time it's like changing how you view the situation and finding a way to make it work, versus looking at an excuse, which is like, in my opinion, the easy option to like justify it to yourself and make you feel like, oh, it's okay because XYZ, you know. So I think it's just changing the mindset towards that. So what we are going to look at is tips for pushing through the hard days, because I think, you know, this is a tough one. I get like the girls I'm working with message me and they're like, oh, I'm really struggling today, Leah, like I don't feel motivated. And it's like understanding that you're not always going to feel motivated. Like I have so many days, especially on prep, where my alarm goes off at 5 o'clock and the last thing I want to do is get out of bed in the pitch black and go and walk on the Stairmaster for like 45 minutes. But I do it because I want to make progress towards the goal. So it's like you're not always going to feel super motivated, and that's okay. So how to navigate the hard days. Tip number 1 is plan your time in advance. This is the number 1 thing I think that determines consistency, because if you are planning things in and they're being treated as appointments, it's getting done, okay? You're not relying on how you feel, which goes on tip number 2, which is it means you're not relying on how you feel. So because what happens is if you're deciding in the spur of the moment and you're planning it as you go, you might have a day where you're like, oh, I feel super tired today, I'll just go another day, I can't really be bothered. You know, you're relying on your emotion at that time and how you feel at that time. Whereas if you've strategically looked at your week and you're like, right, these are the days, these are times I know I can get these sessions in, for example, they're getting done, right? And it kind of takes away that feeling of, oh, I don't really feel like it, because you know that you need to get it done on that day, on that time. And it's just then a case of like, stick with the plan you've made. That means, point number 3, you're more likely to get it done, because planning in advance means you are thinking logically and about what you actually want as opposed to how you feel at the time. So it allows you just to take that emotion away, which leads on to point number 4. It takes practice. You have to learn to continually show up for yourself, even when you're not feeling like it. Get your week planned, stick with your plan. It does become easier with time just to follow through with that plan. So I just wanted to touch briefly on a mindset tip around this, is that change initially with anything is going to be hard. You do have to keep showing up, you know, and it's okay for it not to feel easy. I think a lot of people get in the mindset where they're like, oh, it's really hard, like it shouldn't be this hard. And it's like, it's okay for it to be hard. Like, discomfort means that progress is being made because you are moving out of your comfort zone. And, you know, if you are just doing the same thing as you always did and staying in your comfort zone, you're not going to change in terms of the results. So it is going to be hard, and that's okay. Like, progress is hard and it's fine for it to be hard. There's nothing wrong with having challenging days. So just a little mindset tip. A practical tip is that organisation is key. Allocate some time every single week to sit down, to get your week planned, figure out all your timings. It will massively reduce your stress, and it allows you to just focus on one day at a time, knowing you're staying on top of everything. For example, that might mean sitting down, filling out your diary, getting your food shop ordered, you know, doing some meal prep, allocating time for meal prep. So I do this personally on a Friday afternoon. I will sit down, I'll plan all my diary out, get everything organised, just get on top of my life for the next week, so then I can chill, I can enjoy my weekend, and I'm not then stressing on a Sunday night being, oh my God, what am I doing? I need to prep my food, because I've already done it on the Friday. So it just makes your life a lot easier if you can allocate planning time into your week. And then what I do as well, what really works, is setting yourself up for success. Just spend like 5 minutes in the morning organising your day. So what I'll do is I'll write down my list of everything I need to get done for the day, and then a list of like extras for if I do get through everything. So you've got your non-negotiables for the day, your extras, and then you can order them in order of how, you know, what order you're going to get them done, which allows you to just focus on one thing at a time. And just kind of following on from that as well, touching on what I just said, remind yourself that hard days are okay, they happen. Sometimes it's just like, make the best decision you can at the time. So next bit, 2 more bits. The next bit is navigating your family and your friends, which I think is really tough because sometimes you do get people that aren't supportive of your goals. So my number 1 tip with this is sit down and have an open, honest conversation, because most of the time it comes from that family member or friend not having an understanding. And, you know, 95% of the time, if someone really cares about you, they want you to do whatever is going to make you happy, you know, most of the time. So if you sit down and you explain that, like, look, you know what, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, it really makes me happy, you know, explain how it works, most of the time they're probably going to be like, well, yeah, you know what, if that makes you happy, yeah, go for it. I think if they still aren't supportive, like, you have 2 decisions. You either continue on with focusing on your own goals, or you don't, you know. So at the end of the day, it comes down to what makes you the happiest, and usually those close to you being unsupportive comes from a place of care. They might be worried about you, might be worried about the outcome, especially if it's something new that you're doing, you know. So sometimes you do have to just be a little bit patient with it. Yeah, so just a little tip with that. So a lot of the time as well, you can kind of make things work. So, you know, if you have a family, things might need to be adjusted to fit in around that family a bit more. For example, making the meals family friendly, unless you're in something extreme like a bodybuilding prep, most of the time you can be flexible. For example, if you want to make progress or build a muscle and you want to have a family meal, most of the time you can still do that. So it's about, maybe if you do have family, like adapting it a little bit so that you can still fit in with family life a bit more. So just some basic tips with navigating family and friends. If anyone has anything they're particularly struggling with, by the way, just pop a comment below and I will get back to you. So last thing I wanted to touch on is some fat loss and some building tips that are relevant to that phase. So with fat loss, okay, remember that dieting is only temporary and it's for a specific outcome. You are going to have times where you feel hungry. Being hungry is okay. Like, humans can live for a long time without food. And, you know, we live in a world where food is so readily available. Like, most people eat 3, 4, 5 times a day. You know, it's just, we get so used to always, as soon as we get hungry, we're like, okay, get some food. And it's just getting used to that feeling of being like, okay, well, actually, yeah, I'm a bit hungry, but that's okay. Like, nothing bad is going to happen. Most of the time, like, it can be navigated quite easily being in a fat loss phase. Even when you're out, you know, there's so many readily available options right now. You know, Subway, McDonald's, service stations, shops, all of them have things that you can grab and you can still track into a fat loss phase. So it's just making the best decision you can at the time. But I think a big thing with that is, like, don't make it into a super negative situation, because at the end of the day, you don't have to diet. It's your decision, and it's about remembering that it is only short term. At the end of the day, like, it's not going to last forever. Just enjoy it, get the job done, and then your calories can come back up again. So I think changing your mindset around that massively helps. And then just some tips around building as well. So, because a lot of girls, I think, really struggle with this, you know, the process of gaining muscle, maybe gaining a bit of body fat, building the calories up. Remember, being strong and eating enough to fuel yourself is amazing. Like, it's so empowering. Again, it's for a specific purpose, and enjoy it. You know, you get to eat nice food, you get to train hard, your energy levels are good. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit more body fat. And remember as well that your worth is not defined by your body fat. I think that's a key point. So just some basic tips. I could go on for ages, but I don't want to make this video super long. So hopefully that's helped a bit. So these are just some tips in terms of how to, like, generally improve your mindset. Next week is the final mindset one, okay? So week 4 is going to be from setback to success, strategies to reconnect with your goals. So what happens when you maybe kind of move away from your goal a bit, or you have a bit of a setback? How do you get yourself back on track? So that's going to be the final mindset one. And then we are moving on to the training and the nutrition, which I'm super excited for. So guys, if you find this helpful, go and download the guide, pop a comment below, you know, give it a like, and I will be back next week with the final one, number 4 in the mindset section of this series.